just getting back to finishing up these Orlock Necromunda miniatures in an effort to get the box set complete. I'm doing these metal variants just so it's a bit more interesting for the gang and for the paint job. I think it does look better having the metal miniatures if you can get them. And at the moment I'm just finishing up on the skin tones, and I've been around the rest of all the miniatures and done the reapplication of the base colours, and then some of the layer paints also now, just going on to get the brightness. A few different skin tones on the palette, and I'm just working back and forth between the colours as I go. If I go too heavy on one of the tones, I can just come back in and blend it away a bit with all very watered down paint. And at this stage it's just some highlights where I've just applied that lighter skin tone. I can just come back in with a slightly darker one. Just smooth it out a little bit. Getting there now with these guys has been a bit of a slog. I think in part due to the fact that there's so many different colours used, different tones. I mean, for example, these green trousers here that I'm doing are a different green that was used on the weapon casing and other places. And I think that each of them seems to have had a colour unique to them, it feels like, so kind of slows you down. But of course the best way to deal with that is just to chip away at it. Yeah, I feel like they've got the right look. The look that I'm going for in terms of comparing to the originals. Really just onto the metal now. Kind of done all the painting that I want to do on these. Or at least spent as much time as I can manage on them. Just a case of brightening up some of the spots where the metal's been used. And I'll do a couple of passes. It's just the lead belcher, and then I'll go up to the iron breaker, wherever. Now, referring back to the white dwarf and those photos of the originals, you can see the heavy there. It's got some extra work, some kind of freehand stuff, all light triangles on the shoulder pads. And then that wavy lines and checkers coming down on the kind of tabard thing, or sash, or whatever it would be called. So I'll try to decide how I go at imitating that. It's a bit of extra work. I think I might have a go at it just to kind of complete the look. Right, the painting is now pretty much all done for all 5 of these Orlocks. All that remains is to get this weapon and backpack glued in place, which should just be a case of breaking them away like that. There's great danger of chipping paint here, but I'm just going to go for it. Small dab of super glue at each point. So maybe not the strongest connection, although with 3 points of contact it should take a hold. Looks okay. It's not a bad face on him either. Just got to be careful with the fingers and spoiling the paintwork. And the same with the backpack. So here we are, finally done. This next 5 Orlocks for the gang, along with the original 3 that I did probably a few years ago now, or at least 2 years, if not more. So it's good to get them all done to end up with the full 8. I guess you could have a larger gang, but they sold them in groups of 8 in those gang boxes, so I'll stick with the 8 for now. The miniatures are classic, you know, they look amazing. The Michael Perry, I think, sculpted these Orlocks. It's the expressions on the face that are so compelling, you know, they get so much character into them. And altogether they work pretty well, I think. It was a difficult job painting these various colours, you know, the different colours of trousers or shirts and things like that. Just slows you down a bit when painting, because you're always reaching for a different colour. But in the end, I think it's worth the effort. And then together, the Orlock Gang and the Goliath Gang, completing the boxed set. And I know I've not painted only the plastics, you know, I've got a couple of plastic miniatures from the box set in each gang, but I think it was worth getting the metal versions just to get the character and variety into the gangs. A bit of a standoff here. So I think what I'll do now is maybe just have a browse through the box set, just take a look at what came in the box, as well as the miniatures, and that'll just help round out the video, I think. So here's the Necromunda boxed set. I never owned this back when it originally came out. I'd long since moved on to other things. I knew that the game existed, but I certainly wasn't collecting or painting any of these things at that time. I think 95, I guess, so 30 years ago. Amazing, famous, iconic painting on the front of the box here. I believe it's Jeff Taylor who did this one. As always, for the time, loads going on in the artwork. Kind of funny composition, I guess, with the 3 Goliaths out front, kind of facing out from the box, and then the more numerous Orlocks behind them, and everyone just shouting in different directions. A couple of identifiable things like traffic lights up in the corner there, but it really does set the scene for the game and the kind of mad combat that's going on with the lovely bold colours. Inside, these old rulers that came with the game's measuring sticks, And then various dice for playing the game. The remainder of the plastic miniatures that I won't need, all in really good condition actually, with all the different weapon variants included there. Little advertising pamphlet thing. And then the famous bulkheads, the plastic pieces, like 2 or 3 different designs included. Handy for kit bashing if you want to make use of them that way, for making container type objects, walls for things. When you add on maybe some styrene sheet or corrugated cardboard and things like that, they act as a good starting point with some nice identifiable Warhammer 40k type iconography and shapes and styling. Quite a lot of these. I may have more than you're meant to have, I'm not sure. And then into the box contents and the various rulebooks. Quite like these things that they produced at the time, kind of quick start guides, get started type thing. Worrying opening statement for anyone who doesn't have quite enough time to get into these things properly. Necromunda is a huge game. It's also quite a complex game. And then there's some instructions for putting together your miniatures and setting up the card scenery or card terrain. And then it takes you through playing a couple of turns to get you used to how the game is played. Assembling your buildings. I do miss the hand-painted terrain stuff. They tend to go well with your painted miniatures. You know, when you see hand-painted terrain, kind of melds together quite well. So this seems to be all the different parts to the buildings that you have. And then roster sheets, I would say, where you can name all your guys, keep a note of their experience and whatnot. Come up with the names for your gangs. And then the painting and modelling booklet with all the really nice studio painted miniatures and scenery. I didn't go for the green bases as you've seen. I prefer that kind of ash wastes, red planet sort of look for my 40k universe stuff. But I used these guides, you know, certainly for the Goliath gang in particular. I stuck to that pretty closely. And then some alternate colour schemes. And then the rulebook itself, which isn't bound with staples, so it's not so easy to open up without creasing pages and things. And I'll try and keep things in good condition if I can. But Necromunda there by Rick Priestley, of course, with Jervis Johnson and Andy Chambers. Yeah, the cover Jeff Taylor, and then artwork throughout with John Blanche, Wayne England, Mark Gibbons and Des Hanley. Component art, David Gallagher and Richard Wright. And then the fiction by Rick Priestley and Wayne England. So it's a fair group involved in making the game. Legendary names. And the contents. The introduction. Yes, if you already had experience with 40k, the game itself, then looks like the Necromunda game rules will be basically familiar to you. And then the contents there. Yeah, so you do get 30 bulkheads, so I've probably got that. Love these old hand-painted templates. And then what's nice about these rulebooks that come in the box set are these full-page illustrations. Be good to know how long that takes to produce. And then they're nice, I mean that's a John Blanche one, isn't it? You can tell. There's the street lights again, or the traffic lights and the street lights. And then this goes through the characteristics for your profiles for the various miniatures in the game. Mad. So I guess this is pretty close to what 40k would have. Looks to be the same. And then the turns. So you've got movement, running, charging and hiding. And then dealing with terrain. Then you've got your shooting phase. Some info on cover, which I think is one of the key things in the game, isn't it? Finding cover. Inflicting wounds and injuries, so you get different states you can be in. Flesh wounds, being down and then out of action. The concern with the down is I think they expect you to tip your miniature onto its side to represent it being down. And I would be hesitant to do that, mainly because of all that weathering powder that I use in the base and the mess that would make. Maybe you can use a little token or something. And then you can get pinned down with the enemy shooting at you. Grenades, flamer templates. And as always, nice little diagrams, just helping to describe the scenarios. I'm sure the game is very complicated though, where things will happen that are not necessarily fully explained in the rules. Overwatch. A lot of these terms like being pinned and Overwatch and things like that kind of reminds me of video games of the last 20 years. Gears of War and things like that come to mind. And the hand-to-hand combat. And as always, these nice character illustrations for the sorts of people you'll meet in the Underhive. And the leadership. Nice little bits of fluff throughout. So that is what looks to be the basic rules. Over how many pages was that? Say roughly 11 to 31, so 20 pages of basic rules. And then you have the advanced game rules, where things get more complicated. Not necessary in order to play. So these are the sort of things you could add in, like things like jumping, I guess from one piece of terrain or a high point to another high point. But you'd add a lot of flavour and interest to the game, I imagine. Like attacking and structural features. Fear, terror and stupidity. The favoured drink of the Underhive is the potent spirit known as Wild Snake. It is brewed from the skins and flesh of snakes caught in the bad zones. And then hatred and frenzy also. There's quite a lot of psychology type stuff in there. And then the armory, different weapons which gang fighters carry. I think this plays a big part of the game in terms of, you know, the gold you make can then be spent buying upgrades and whatnot. I mean, that's a rare mix of things going on there. Looks to be a pit slave. What I assume would be a ratskin renegade of some sort. And then Delac or Delacue gang members in the background in front of this vast industrial structure. So massive axe, sword or club, chain swords, chains and flails, swords and knives. There's a lot of things in here. And then the different types of pistols. Needle pistol with its toxic darts. The web pistol fires a tangle of gluey threads which envelop and ensnare their target. Gilder merchants run slave trains from settlement to settlement across the wastes, through rubble-strewn domes and into tunnels and crawl holes. All this kind of descriptive stuff that you get through these rulebooks helps you, I think, imagine the scenarios, the scenes, the structures, the buildings, all useful if you're into making terrain and building things from scratch. It's all really useful stuff. And then into basic weapons, and then the special weapons. With the nice elevations. And then the heavy weapons. And then another full page illustration. Maybe Goliaths. What's cool about, I think this is John Blanche again, the artwork, is that often the huge structures in the background, and there is often huge structures in the background just to help give you that sense of scale, but they're often skewed at funny angles, which just adds to the dynamism of the composition. You know, the birds or bats or whatever they are flying up this huge vault or atrium. And then a section on the types of grenades, which seem to be familiar, and then there's a whole section on gas ones. Different types of gas grenades, plasma, and then armour. Ammunition and gun sights, so things that you must be able to add on to your weapons to improve them. And then bionics and bioimplants, which again just gives you that cyberpunk feel or overtone to things, that you can surgically enhance the gang members and give them bionic arms and whatever else. And then all sorts of other equipment here. I mean, just looking at this couple of pages on their own, I mean, like grav chutes, grapnels, bioscanners, you can see that there's a lot of depth to the game. Is that guy there, roughly? Similar. Again, I assume that the illustration comes first from the artist. In this case, MG Mark Gibbons there. And then I wonder if the sculptors then derive some inspiration from these and create a miniature. I'm not sure which way around it is. Yeah, infra goggles, photo visor. It's cool stuff. A rat skin map. And that's nice, you can then roll on it and you'll randomly find out if it's fake or... And then some summary sheets, some layouts to use, and then the miniatures. Yeah, so we've got Michael Perry, Gary Morley, Alan Perry, and you know, with all these different sculptors and creatives, the stuff all sits together perfectly. Nothing looks out of place, nothing looks odd, they all fit together. They all look good, they all suit the same collections, the same table if you were playing them all together. Nothing doesn't sit right. Jez Goodwin, of course, on the Eschers. Amazing. Now here's a bit on playtesting, I assume, with names of those that took part. And a little bit about their gangs, perhaps. And then more painted examples. And then the stuff I really like, the sourcebook, as it's called here. So this one's by Rick Priestley with Andy Chambers and Jervis Johnson. Mark Gibbons doing the cover, which is it's a beauty. Goliath. John Blanche, Wayne England, and Mark Gibbons again for the art inside. So I think it's pretty much the same as the rulebook. Yeah, so here we have more info about the gangs and campaigns. So you don't really need to come to this book, you could play the whole game just on those basic rules and advanced rules, but this is where you get the bigger picture from and more background information. Worth reading through this. This looks like Redemptionists here. And then the Van Saar. Nice explanations of the Hive City, the Underhive, the Hive Bottom, and then you get the illustration there of Hive Primus. And then the various houses. Nice bit of story there. Descriptions on the 6 main gangs that came out initially with the game, with their own heraldry or icons. And then a bit on the Merchant Guild. A story about Bull Gorg. Some sort of pit fighter. Which I don't know if there's a miniature for that one. I don't think I've seen one. And then descriptions on the Underhive itself. The sorts of things you're fighting over: ores and minerals, hive fungus, and archaeotech. Mutants and other outcasts. Again, just encouraging you really to kit bash miniatures, make things up. The rat skins. There's an Escher gang looking to be in a bit of trouble there. Becoming an outlaw gang. And then how to create a gang. And these guys have got 10 in their gangs. Do you need 10? I've only got 8 in mine. And you've got to come up with the names for them all. Like Fast Dawn, Narc, Rock, Dead End. It's a good name. And then they've filled out the character rosters for you for a couple of gangs, if you need to use that. Profiles for the different types of members of the gang. Yes, you've got 1,000 guilder credits to build your gang, so I guess if I had 8 minis, I could just base it on that and see what equipment you could maybe buy to get it up to the 1,000. Nice old page of story. Talk is the lifeblood of the Downhive. And then here's your campaigns. Probably a bit of a commitment in terms of working through these sorts of things. There's your serious injury chart. Let's have a roll. Call that 54. Full recovery. There you go. The fighter has been knocked unconscious or suffers a mildly incapacitating wound from which he makes a full recovery. Experience. So this is how your gang members grow over time, move up. Learn new skills. So there's all the different types of skills you can get. A headbutt skill. If the model inflicts 2 or more hits in hand-to-hand combat, then he may choose to exchange all hits for a single hit with a further strength bonus. I mean, I guess it's going to be the sort of game where you've got to be referring back to tables and pages and rulebooks and things to try and keep track of things. Unless you can maybe write these things down on a character card or something. But it's nice that that all exists in there, you know, just because if you played lots of games with a gang and they were growing and new members coming in, and you could modify them with the cybernetics and then you can give them new skills. I do seem to remember reading something though that your miniature should visually represent anything that you equip them with. So, you know, if you were to stick to that, things could get tricky with having to clip off arms and replace them with new arms and new weapons and things if you were really sticking to it. And then the territory tables, which, if you've seen any of my older videos or my existing videos where I'm building ash wastes, terrain and things, well, that's where I'm getting some of the inspiration for that. You know, I'll look down here and see something like water still, read the little description, and then you can create something to represent that. And that would be nice to populate a table or have as part of your kind of scenery collection. Really good starting point for making things. And then the trading post. And this is where you can get access to some of those items that we saw earlier. Yeah, nice double page spread of story here. And then hired guns, so you can get in some underhive scum, bounty hunters, ratskin scouts can all be added to your gang. I think that would be a nice way. If you did need more miniatures for some reason, I think it'd be nice to hire 1 or 2 special characters like that. I do like the ratskin scouts. It's a cool concept. And then playing campaign games. It kind of fits into that Wild West thing that I'm going for, you know, bounty hunters and all that. It's, you know, that Ash Wastes Wild West theme that I really like. And then here's some example scenarios. And I think there's plenty more of these included in the White Dwarf magazines of the time. Specific scenarios that you can play out. I particularly like the ones with the zombies. I think that's a good scenario. Or monster hunting ones, you know, you can do all sorts of things. Post-battle sequence, so this would help you work out everything that's happened to your gang after those battles, working out your injuries, your experience. So lots to get involved in. I mean, it's amazing that these guys put all this together. I mean, it almost sounds like they did it all quite quickly as well, or didn't have that much time to do things, but there's so much depth to it. And then there's always the nice miniature painting examples. So that's the source book. And then you get some handy cards, play sheets with the key information on them. And then various tokens. And then we get to the card terrain, the buildings, which I love these. They look amazing. Nice double-sided flamer template. And then the smaller one for the hand flamer. No creases or any bits bent on that. And then you've got your little blast templates. And then some of these bits here for the buildings themselves. A few creases here and there. So I think these have been put together at some point in the past. And those iconic hazard strips, in particular to Necromunda. In the lovely blue colour that everything was painted in. Very distinctive. I think it would be interesting, you know, if you were to paint one of these bulkheads, to do so in a colour scheme to match this. You know, rather than doing them, you know, metal or all rusted up or whatever, you know, to actually try and match this paint scheme would be nice. But you've really got to appreciate that this is all painted by hand. The checker plate stuff, really nicely done. So everything appears to be here. The different parts, supports, nice vents. It's in pretty good condition actually. I mean, barring the old, you know, maybe the expected crease here and there, everything looks nice and flat. You know, they've not been glued together or ripped apart. A little bit of damage on that corner. But they've definitely been used at some point. But considering, you know, it's 30 years old, it's done not too bad. Here's the tower, so that was stuck together. But yeah, it'd be nice to try and match that as a paint scheme. It's just that, you know, when you see something like that, it just goes nicer with painted miniatures, I think. When you know that this has been painted by hand as well. You can maybe touch up any small amounts of damage with a bit of paint if needed. So yeah, so that's all the bits. Seems to be, I believe, all there. And then on the back of the box, I mean, it's a big box of stuff that you get there. There's a lot of things included in that. And when you see it all laid out on a tabletop like that, it'd be quite impressive. And absolutely no fear of using bright colours and eye-catching designs at all. So if you've made it this far in the videos, thanks very much for watching. I think I'm glad that I've got this Necromunda box set now completed, and can move on to something else, but I do want to and will continue to make scenery and be involved with the Necromunda stuff, because I just think it's got so much going for it. But as I say, in the meantime, thanks very much for watching the video.